Hi, folks, and welcome back to the pole barn of bad decisions and broken dreams, where the coffee's always hot. Nope, not so much. Not all the time. But we're going to keep working on the 1966 Chevy Nova here in the barn, and we've got some wiring to take care of and some other things around the car. So sit back, relax, get yourself a cup of brake fluid, and enjoy the video. We're back in the barn working on the 1966 Chevy Nova, and some of the things that we're going to need to do is we have the engine installed, and we want to get this engine broken in. We want to get it broken in as quickly as we can. So what we're going to do is we have the list here of everything that needs to be done on the car, and we're going to make an addendum to the list. We are going to add everything that is geared towards a goal of getting this engine running and broken in. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to make sure that we've got a set of gauges made up. We're going to make sure that our temporary fuel system is finished up and taken care of. We have to nut and bolt the engine and the front suspension, make sure that that's going to be all nice and tight and we can move the car around. We've got to get a distributor stabbed in. We've got to fill, let's see, the engine oil on this, as well as some coolant put into it. We need to make sure that if we're running any gauges while we're running the car, that we have harnesses built that we can have the gauges out here on some kind of a pad or something like that, that we can watch our temperature and our oil pressure at minimum. So we're going to, what else do we have to do here? We got to make sure the transmission is full and that's got fluid in it. We aren't going to be hooking up the TV cable on the 200R4 because we're not driving the car and it shouldn't be a problem. So I do want to call Monster Transmissions and find out and make sure, just for sure, that that is the case. But they told me that the last time I had talked to them, that if you're just running the engine in neutral or park, that you don't have to have the TV cable hooked up. So that shouldn't be a problem. If you know something different on the 200R4 transmission, put something down in the comments so that I can get that and read it and make sure that I'm not doing anything that's going to damage that transmission. It's a brand new transmission and I want to give it the best chance at life as I can. So we're going to get down, we're going to get this list figured out and written down. We're going to add it to the major list we have here and start getting some of these things knocked off so we can get this engine running. So sit back, relax, grab yourself a cup of starting fluid and enjoy the video. Okay, we took a second and we worked on our list for everything that needs to be done to get the engine running. And what we've got here is we need to put the brake-in oil in, coolant, spin the oil pump up to make sure the engine is lubricated before we start that motor. We want to stab the distributor. We need to run plug wires to it. We want to pull our spark plugs, make sure the gaps are okay for an HEI distributor, because that's what we'll be installing, is an HEI distributor. And we've got to check our shifter operation. We have to put a temporary exhaust on the car. We have to clean up any electrical in here, any open wire ends or anything like that. We just want to roll them up and protect them from creating any shorts when we put that battery in for the first time. We've got a little bit more electrical. Well, actually, honestly, we probably have a lot of bit more electrical to do on the car before we can put her on the road and wire everything up. But yeah, some of this stuff has to be finished. We want to get an alternator belt tightened up and on, so that's running real good. We're going to finish up the temporary fuel system. We're going to wire the starter up. We got to put a battery, cables. We got to install the carb. I'm not so sure if we're going to install the linkage to the gas pedal or not yet, or if we're just going to use maybe the screw on the carburetor to turn that up and get it up to 2,000 RPMs. We got to run the motor for 20 minutes at 2,000 RPMs. So I'm thinking that might be the easiest way, is just use the screw on the carburetor linkage. We got to throw wheels and tires on the vehicle, and we got to spin the car 180 degrees. We got to move it over to that side of the shop, and we've got to back it out the door so the exhaust is running outside the door. Before I do that, we have to check the steering on it, make sure everything's tight there, and that isn't going to cause a problem or bind up or anything when we're doing it. So that's what we have. That is what is going to be on our next couple of videos. And getting all of this stuff done, getting it ready to move out that garage door that's behind you there and start this puppy up. So enjoy and like and subscribe if you have an opportunity. Otherwise, sit back, relax. We've got a little bit more content to provide for you here today, and we'll keep going and start working on the 1966 Chevy Nova. What I've got going on here is I am going to check with our ohm meter to see we've got continuity on the correct one. So I'm going to set my little meter here to ohms, and I'm going to turn on our audible alert. And what that does is when we've got the correct wire on both ends, it's going to give us a signal. And wire 15 here is for our tack, and we want wire 15 to be the longest one on our harness, which I do not have. So we'll get that here and see what we've got. We do not have, and let's see here. That one needs to go to here, all right? And 15. Okay, so our 15 is correct. Now, if I move over and I go to 14, which is going to be our temperature gauge. Very good. That's all set. And that is correct. And we have to have, for our oil pressure gauge on number 13, we are going to hold that onto there. And we're going to test number 14 on the connector and make sure that we're good there. Oop, got to drop that. So put that in there. That's perfect. Number 14. What do we got here? 13 is oil pressure sender. So we're good there. So we have 15 going to our tachometer, and we want that as the last one in our harness, which is the longest side, and I have the wrong connector on that. That connector needs to be replaced with one that is a female spade. So basically, these two connectors are backwards in my harness. So now we're going to take and we're going to swap these two connectors, and that will make the harness correct. This is all part of working on cars. Nothing comes out perfect the first time, and we don't call it the pole barn of bad decisions and broken dreams for nothing. You've seen me do this a few times, I believe, is I don't like the insulators on those connectors. I don't, they look unsightly under a hood. They don't look professional, and I have a box of connectors here that don't have insulators on them, but you know, we paid for them, we still have to use them, and they're very easy to pull apart. So I take those, and what I do there is I just pull them apart. Got that there. That one is already off. We're not going to be using the male spade connector that was connected to that one, so we're fine there. We've got our two connectors without the insulators on them. And now what we need to do is we've got to take the longest wire, which is our 15, which goes to our tachometer, and we're replacing the easy connector for a stud, and we're going to be putting it to a female spade connector. Cut that off, pull it off, and once it goes on, we will cut a piece of shrink tubing and shrink tube that on there, and this has got the adhesive in it. So now we need to take our strippers and strip out that wire. So we've got about a quarter of an inch of the wire on there. We are going to slide our shrink wrap on there. We're going to take our female spade connector and set that on there, and I am going to use this set of wire crimpers because it actually does a better job at crimping these when you put them in. And you put the split side facing down, drop it in there. We got to get our wire inserted in there, making sure that there are no strands sticking out, and give her a crimp. And what that does, and I hope you can see that, is that curls those. It's got a split end on it. So what that's going to do is that's going to curl those in, and it's going to grab onto that wire. And I think that is a better connection. It's nice and tight. So we've got that in there. We've got our little torch here that we use to shrink our tubing and melt our sealant in there. So that sticks to our wire. May have gotten a little hot there. Oh, there's our, there we go. And we're looking pretty good there. So now we're going to take and we're going to depin. No, we don't want those. Those aren't going to work. Where did I set them down? My little cutters. You know, I spend more time looking for tools that I just set down and have no idea where I set them down than anything else in this dang pole barn. You know, I'll set a wrench down and spend the next hour trying to figure out where the heck I put it, where it went, and being OCD, that definitely causes problems. because you get stuck on something, something's lost or unorganized. Alrighty, and now we have a missing. What's that? There's the cutters I was looking for. There's all of those. We need our little terminal there. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So we've got this one too. It has the split connectors as well, but it is a much better connector. And I think a regular crimp connection on this one works better for this. There are different types. It seems that I'm going to show you that there. And I'm going to set this down, and we're going to pull the insulator off of this one and see if it's the same way. So you've got two connectors here, and this one is just a little half eyelet. But if you can see that there, that has a nice thick connector on it. If you look at this one, it's not thick. It's like sheet metal. So I use a different connection on the sheet metal type looking ones than I do the nice thick ones that we can do. We have to take our shrink wrap, cut a decent piece off, and we don't want to cover up my number for the number 14. So we're going to put our shrink wrap there. We've got our connector, and we've got a fray sticking out. So we want to make sure that that fray is not sticking out. And insert that into our connector, and I'm going to push that in just a little bit to get a better spot on it and give that a good crimp. And that basically puts a little divot in that connector to hold tight on that wire. So then we've got our shrink wrap there. We'll shrink that up and make that look nice and professional. Make sure that we're seeing our adhesive bubbling out, and that's going to add a little bit of strength to our connection because, ooh, that's hot. Won't do that again. So it's a little warm, but our adhesive came out and we're doing okay. Got a couple of marks on my finger from the torch, but that's okay. I'm used to that. So now we've got our harness correctly wired up for the positions where it needs to go. And we're going to get that on the car and get that set up and wire tied down so that it's not in the way and getting into trouble. We now have all of our temporary harnesses installed for all of our sensors and starter wires to go in for our ignition panel. We've put them all in. We've got them all in here. We've got our distributor connections here. Right here, we've got our temperature gauge. Down in here, we've got our oil pressure gauge. And those are all set and ready to go so that when we run it, we can hook up our temporary ignition panel and our temporary sensors for our gauges on the engine. We have all of our parts here to make our harness for the fuel pump power, and with the magic of TV, and here we are. Our ground strap is all done. Got a little tech tip for you here, and let me make sure that I've got a good view on here. So when you're putting on these wire ties, and let me get my other glasses on here so that I can see the video. So there we go. You can see that, how it's got that sharp edge on it. And a lot of times you can't get in and you can't get anything tight on there. And if you go reach your hand in there, that will scratch you up pretty good. You can see that. But all you have to do is take your lighter, and it doesn't have to be a torch like this, it just has to be a lighter, and we're going to light it, and we're going to just put the flame on the end of that. And what that does is that melts the plastic, and I'm not going to touch it this time because Guido will give me shit for burning myself yet again. So I don't want to touch that for a second, but you can see, let's move it over here in the light and see if we can see how that isn't sharp anymore. And if you're working underneath the dash, that rounded edge, it melts the tip of that. It also prevents it, if you've got crummy wire ties, it will actually melt the end of that and keep it tighter so it doesn't pull apart. So that's a little tech tip for wiring, make things look nice and professional, is to cut your stragglers off, heat it up, melt it a little bit, and take that sharp edge off of there. Works like a charm. And there we have it. We have all of our temporary harnesses tied into the engine bay, setting up on the vent cowl over here, and everything is hooked up. So in this situation, for these two harnesses, we're all set and ready for these. Now, what we're going to need to do, excuse me, is I have to make a small positive and negative wire for our fuel pump so we can connect it to the battery. We'll get that short harness, which is probably going to be about 3 feet long, so we can connect our ground wire and our positive wire, which connect up underneath here to our fuel pump. We need to get power to those so we can pump fuel into the engine, and we'll get that small harness made up, and that should be pretty easy. Get a couple of maybe clamps or alligator clips or something like that to put on our battery so that we've got power going to that fuel pump, and we'll get that all taken care of. We have all of our parts here to make our harness for the fuel pump power, and with the magic of TV, we have our fuel pump harness built and ready to connect to a battery. I even went as far as using removable terminals so that it could be disconnected and stored without causing a problem. We now have all of our temporary harnesses installed for all of our sensors and starter wires to go in for our ignition panel. We've put them all in. We've got them all in here. We've got our distributor connections here. Right here, we've got our temperature gauge. Down in here, we've got our oil pressure gauge. And those are all set and ready to go so that when we run it, we can hook up our temporary ignition panel and our temporary sensors for our gauges on the engine. We've got a little teaser here for what's to come for the engine in the 1966 Chevy Nova. These are the split exhaust manifolds that 12-bolt Tom built for us, or machined out for us, for the straight six 230 engine that we had him rebuild. And next to those exhaust manifolds is the valve cover that 12-bolt Tom machined, and a new Aussie Speed 4-barrel intake manifold. And on top of that Aussie Speed intake manifold is the 4-barrel Holley carburetor that 12-bolt Tom sells that is been built specifically for my engine and tuned to my engine. And what Tom does is he takes that 4-barrel carburetor and he blocks off one of the primary ports on the bottom of the carburetor. And that, for the reasoning for that, is that the 4-barrel carburetor at low RPMs and cruise and startup would provide too much fuel to the straight six engine. And we don't want to do that. So what Tom does is he machines that out and he blocks off one of the primary ports so that it acts like a single barrel carburetor at startup and low speed. And then the secondaries open up when you need the extra fuel for higher RPMs. So there's just a little teaser of what we're going to be doing in the future in our videos and how we're going to be setting up that 12-bolt Tom straight six 230 engine with a 250 head and lump ports installed in the intakes. This video is a thank you for Aeromotive.com. I picked up a fluid-filled gauge, an oil-filled gauge from Aeromotive, and got it installed and came back the next day and noticed a puddle of the oil underneath the gauge. And decided, okay, I'm just going to give Aeromotive a call and see what's going on. I looked in the instructions. I'll show you a picture of Aeromotive's information up here right now and let you know how good their customer service is. So I called Aeromotive and talked to, I believe the gentleman's name was Dave in customer service. Also talked to a gentleman named Brian. Both of them, fantastic guys, took wonderful care of me, and I really appreciate that kind of service. I worked in customer service in the marine industry for many years and really appreciate someone who goes the extra mile and takes care of customers. What the situation was is I bought a oil-filled gauge and not quite sure where I got it. I could have got it from one of the local automotive distributors. I could have got it from Summit or Jegs. I buy some parts from all those companies. I also could have got it on Amazon. And in talking to Aeromotive and talking to their customer service, they said to be very careful with buying their products on Amazon because they don't sell their products on Amazon. It's a possibility this gauge came from Amazon. And what they told me is that people buy those pallets of parts that were returned and then just turn around and resell them if they look good. Well, it's a possibility that I got one of those packages because there was a little valve on top that holds the fluid in, and after I installed it and went in the next day, there was a puddle underneath that gauge. So I gave them a call and they were very gracious about it, gave me all the information, didn't give me any kind of guff because I bought it someplace else. They said, hey, Brian, we'll send you a valve for the top of that gauge even if you didn't buy it for us, since it is still one of our gauges. And I think that's great that they stand behind their product like that. And that was just amazing. In fact, I went back right after I got off the phone and I bought 2 more gauges from them just in case that this gauge that I got doesn't perform like it should. So I've got some replacements that I can put on, and it doesn't make me wait, another 3 or 4 days to get another gauge. So just wanted to talk about that and let you know that if you're gonna buy fuel-related products, get with Aeromotive.com. Their customer service is incredible, and that's worth the $1.50 that you would sell, or the $1.50 you would save buying it anyplace else. Thank you. You folks have a good day. Thanks for stopping in the pole barn of Bad Decisions, Broken Dreams. I appreciate it. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to thank you for stopping in and making it to the end of the video. If you have a moment, please like and subscribe. Maybe throw a comment in. Tell me how you're progressing on your project. What are you working on? Are you working on a Nova? Are you working on a Chevy Chevette? Whatever it is, let me know what's going on. If you've got any questions for the pups, please put those in the comments. The pups are itching to answer some questions, and we'd like to continue Ask the Pyrenees segment of the videos. And that's the segment that you guys ask questions, and the pups will answer those on my future videos. So, again, thanks for stopping in. Have a good day. I'd like to introduce a new segment, Ask the Pyrenees. Ask the Pyrenees, the only advice segment on YouTube where three Great Pyrenees, George, Cody, and Alfred, answer your questions with sarcasm, wisdom, and judgment only giant fluffy dogs can provide. You ask the questions in our comments section about cars, tools, life, relationships, wiring disasters, or why your project car hates you. And I'll read the pups' official responses during my videos. Expect brutally honest opinions, zero mechanical knowledge, and a whole lot of attitude.